This is the story of two best friends who fall victim to human trafficking and have their bodies sold almost on a daily basis. This is Even Lambs Have Teeth. Katie and Sloane are two best friends who have slightly different personalities, but nevertheless are the best of friends. They have recently planned a month of getaway, and their excitement has no bounds. Their plan is to head to Eco-Field Organic Farms, where they plan to work for an entire month, so that they can save enough money to fund their trip to New York. Couple of days before their trip, Katie's uncle Jason picks them up. Jason is a police officer who lives with his girlfriend. Katie and Sloane decide to spend a night at Uncle Jason's house before starting their trip. That night, Sloane and Katie decide to use fake names during their trip. While Sloane picks Heather as her new name, Katie goes with Ripley. The next day, Uncle Jason drives them to a station where they'll catch the bus to their destination. Before leaving, Jason gives the girls some words of advice and tips to keep themselves safe. In order to know they were safe at all times, Jason asks the girls to use a secret code in their messages to let him know they're all right. The code is that the girls must use a secret code in each message in alphabetical order, meaning the first message should end with a word that starts with an A, the second message with B, and so on. Despite blowing it off as a silly thing, the girls promise to use Jason's code. After Jason leaves, the girls have an hour before their bus arrives. So, they decide to kill some time at a nearby cafe. At the cafe, two local men have their eyes on Katie and Sloane. The men approach the girls and introduce themselves as brothers, Jed and Lucas. The girls then decide to talk to the boys, but use their fake names instead, Heather and Ripley. During their casual conversation, Jed and Lucas offer to give them a ride to the farm. The girls at first are hesitant, but fueled by their excitement of freedom, they decide to take their offer and hop into the brothers' blue truck. Everything looks normal until Jed deliberately drives past the farm, where Katie and Sloane were supposed to get off at. Instead, Jed drives them to his house, which is located pretty far away from the town. The girls are then greeted by the brothers' mom. Jed and Lucas's mother invites the girls over for a cup of tea before they head back to the farm. Since there's a woman who is also with the brothers, Katie and Sloane believe there's nothing to be afraid of. Around the same time, Katie responds to her uncle's text, ending it with Apple, which serves as the first code to let him know that they're fine. Later, the girls enjoy some food and drink offered by the brothers' mother. However, moments later, they start to feel dizzy and realize their food or drink were spiked with some drugs. They quickly try to leave before they lose consciousness, but the brothers are quick to catch them and carry them over to their house. Next day, Katie and Sloane wake up in the middle of the woods, where they are chained, undressed, and are kept inside shipping containers. Moments later, Jed walks up to them and gives them the horrifying news. Jed explains that the girls will now be living inside of those containers and will do everything they say. A few hours later, Jed's boss Boris arrives and immediately takes Katie's phone to check if anyone is aware of their situation. During his investigation, he finds out that Katie and Sloane lied about their names and also notices the secret code Apple. However, he fails to understand that the code is meant to change in alphabetical order. Under pressure, the women admit that Apple is a safe word. With the truth revealed, Boris decides to tighten their control. Later, Katie and Sloane are forced to shower in front of them when a town policeman arrives and draws his gun. The girls are relieved to be found by the policeman, however, to their surprise and bad luck, the policeman turns out to be corrupt and part of their heinous crime group. Unfortunately, Katie falls victim as the corrupt policeman decides to take advantage of her. Moments later, the policeman comes out of the container, and a devastated Katie is comforted by Sloane. Katie and Sloane realize they're now victims of human trafficking. Meanwhile, back in their hometown, Katie's uncle Jason grows increasingly concerned, as he has not heard back from the girls in quite a while. He gets even more concerned when he receives a message from Katie with the same repeated safety code. He immediately senses something is not quite right. Back in the woods, Jed and Lucas bring a new man, who they refer to as a customer for Sloane and Katie. The weird-looking man picks Sloane as his victim and takes her inside the shipping container. Meanwhile, Jason contacts the farm, where Katie and Sloane were supposed to be working, and learns they never even arrived at the farm. Jason is quickly alarmed by this situation and is determined to find the girls before anything unfortunate happens to them. But as Jason starts his search for the girls, Sloane and Katie's situation gets worse than ever. Few days later, another man arrives to take advantage of the girls, and this one is a madman who decides to wear a pig mask to hide his identity. Jed and Lucas quickly cover the girls' heads as the pig mask man approaches. The sick man then chooses Sloane and drags her into the container. Moments later, when the pig man goes back, we can see that Sloane is visibly shaken by what she had to go through. Meanwhile, Jason arrives at the police station, where he finds the same corrupt officer who took advantage of the girls a few days earlier. Upon listening to the story, the corrupt police officer realizes he's here after the same girls that he has helped keep captive in the woods. Moreover, he finds out that the code word was supposed to change in alphabetical order. Unknown to Jason, the police officer secretly informs the kidnappers about Jason's investigation and tells them to act smartly. Jed and Lucas realize that the stakes are much higher than they had anticipated. Afraid that Katie's police uncle could really catch them and expose their human trafficking business, Boris orders Jed to kill Katie and Sloane before disposing of their bodies. But little do they know, Katie has overheard their conversation and realizes her uncle is out there looking for them. She quickly tells Sloane about everything she heard and comes up with a plan to save their lives. Moments later, Jed and Lucas arrive with the same weird man who assaulted them a few days before. The man sits as guard, while Jed and Lucas go elsewhere to take care of some other business. As soon as Jed and Lucas leave, the girls begin to seduce the weird man in hope of getting close to him, and as they get their chance, Katie bites into his neck and instantly kills him, almost like a vampire. With no one standing guard, the girls quickly free themselves and leave their captivation. Few minutes later, the corrupt police officer arrives and finds that the girls are missing. He looks everywhere, but it's too late, as the girls have run away with his car. They drive back into the town and stop at a hardware store to gear up for their revenge tour. There, they ask the cashier about a man named Boris, and luckily, the cashier gives them the direction to Boris's house. Meanwhile, Jason continues his investigation. He visits the cafe, where he last dropped off Katie and Sloane, and questions an employee, who quite vividly remembers the truck the girls had hopped on. Based on the truck's description, Jason continues his investigation. Soon after that, Jason gets another lead, when he visits the car insurance office and inquires about the blue truck. He fabricates a story about colliding with a blue truck to obtain information about its owner. The trail leads him closer to Boris. Elsewhere, Boris returns home, completely unaware that Katie and Sloane are lying in wait. The women manage to ambush him and throw nail-spiked tennis balls at him, leaving him severely injured. Realizing that he's at the mercy of the same girls he tormented, Boris pleads for his life, offering them money in exchange for their forgiveness. Just then, Jason arrives at Boris's house. Inside, Katie and Sloane have started interrogating Boris about the identity of the man in the pig mask. When Boris refuses to cooperate, they take a makeshift spear and impale him, instantly killing him. Moments later, Jason enters the house, finding Boris in his final moments, and completely unaware that it was Katie and Sloane who did this. Jason hurries and attempts to save Boris by rushing him to the hospital, but the corrupt officer later tells him that Boris didn't survive. With Boris dead, Jason loses any lead he had up until now. In desperation, he calls Katie, but then the phone rings from the corrupt officer's pocket. Jason quickly understands that the police officer is behind the girl's disappearance. However, the corrupt police officer is quick to act and takes his gun out. Next morning, Katie and Sloane just so happen to drive past a church, where they see the man who was hiding behind the pig mask. Determined to confront him, Sloane walks into the church, face to face with the man who assaulted her. With Katie by her side, Sloane finally manages to take down the pig man and take revenge for the horrendous things he made them go through. The girls take a perfect revenge as they drive freely in their stolen car and drag the dirty pig along the way. And that wasn't enough to quench their thirst for revenge. So they pour gasoline all over his body and set him to fire before driving off towards their next target. While Katie and Sloane are going rampant on their revenge journey, Uncle Jason is now held captive by the corrupt police officer. And it turns out he has captured 2 more girls to be his next victims. Just as things start to look bad for the girls, Katie and Sloane arrive to their rescue. They manage to take control of the corrupt police officer and tie him up. They then decide to have some fun and play a game of Russian roulette. The girls continue to mock and torment the bad guy. Despite the corrupt police officer's plea for forgiveness, the girls finally shoot him down and end his life. Afterwards, Katie and Sloane free the other two girls and ask them to untie Uncle Jason. When Jason asks the girls who killed the police officer and helped them escape, the girls stay silent. They were probably told by Katie and Sloane to keep their identities secret in return for saving their lives. Next up, Katie and Sloane visit Jed and Lucas's mother's house as their last destination of their revenge trip. They drug her in the same way she had drugged them and drag her to the basement, where Jed is already tied up and gagged. The girls then take turns bashing Jed's head with baseball bats and make his mother watch the entire ordeal. The girls then turn their attention towards Lucas, who is also restrained in a chair. However, instead of killing him like Jed, they untie him and hand him a bat. The girls then ask Lucas to beat his mom with the bat in exchange for his life. And it seems Lucas was almost going to take this offer, but the girls don't let him slide away so easily. They kill them immediately, and then stage the entire crime scene to make it seem like it was Lucas who committed all the crimes and took his own life afterwards. Meanwhile, the mother desperately pleads with the girls and offers them all of her money to spare her life. However, the girls take a lawnmower and gruesomely put an end to their revenge tour. In the final scene, Uncle Jason pulls up to Katie's house to pick her and Sloane up. Months have gone by since that horrible incident, and the girls seem to have moved on from their harrowing ordeal. Jason drops them off at the airport, where they eagerly board a flight to New York City, ready to embrace their next adventure. Thanks for watching this gripping story of survival and revenge. Katie and Sloane's fight for justice was nothing short of thrilling. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure. Until then, take care.